Hello, good evening and welcome to Business Live. Coming up in this edition, International Monetary Fund identifies fresh set of risks to the economy and fund program apart from election-related spending this year. We have details, plus get to hear the thoughts of an economist. Also in this bulletin, Ghana cedi expected to recoup some losses against the dollar in the coming months. We will hear from Fitch Solutions. As well, we are live with a currency analyst. Plus, President Akufo-Addo lauds the French government and the Paris Club for their pivotal role in the success of Ghana's recent debt restructuring initiative.
Let me use this occasion to express Ghana's deep appreciation for the work of the Paris Committee, the Paris Club, whose official creditor committee is co-chaired by the Republic of France and the People's Republic of China. The satisfactory work that has brought a solution to Ghana's debt restructuring.
We have details of these and many more lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojo Baka. We can now take a look at our stories because the International Monetary Fund has identified fresh set of risks to the economy and the fund program apart from election spending related issues. This was captured in its staff report released after Ghana passed the second review. George Afe tells us more.
IMF in their report maintained that despite the progress made by Ghana, when it comes to the fund program, there are still some other issues the country needs to address aggressively. One can talk about Ghana's revenue situation, which the fund believes that a lot more needs to be done to improve the situation. This is despite the projection by government that it has been able to meet the half-year target for 2024. It also wanted government to do more in the area of expenditure controls and rebuild international reserves. The IMF also wants more work done towards dealing with the financial sector legacy issues and improving the foreign exchange operations. The IMF noted that even though it sees election-related spending as a major risk, tackling these other issues could help in firmly stabilizing the economy.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has praised the French government and the Paris Club for their pivotal role in the success of Ghana's recent debt restructuring initiative. He highlighted the instrumental involvement of both the French and the Chinese governments in finalizing the deal in the record time. President Akufo-Addo made the remarks at the French National Day celebration at the French Embassy here in Accra, where the French ambassador also reaffirmed the government's unwavering commitment to Ghana's economic recovery. Carlos Caloni has the rest of the story.
A Bastille Day commemorates the French Revolution's key moment, particularly the storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, symbolizing the fight against oppression. This year in Accra, the celebration at the French residence hosted by Ambassador Jules Armand Enyembosu united the French community, Ghanaian officials, traditional leaders, artists, and others involved in Ghana-French cooperation. French Ambassador Jules Armand Enyembosu affirmed that the French government remains committed to supporting Ghana's economic recovery, post-successful debt restructuring.
On the economic front, over the past few months, has focused on restructuring her bilateral debt. The Paris Club has done a remarkable job in record time, enabling Ghana to regain her financial margins. I don't want to blow my trumpet, but I'm very proud to say that France has demonstrated its full support to Ghana during this difficult period and will continue to do so.
Guest of honor President Akufo-Addo praised the French government and the Paris Club for their crucial role in Ghana's recent debt restructuring success.
Let me use this occasion to express Ghana's deep appreciation of the work of the Paris Committee, the Paris Club, whose official creditor committee is co-chaired by the Republic of France and the People's Republic of China, for the satisfactory work that has brought a solution to Ghana's debt restructuring, as the ambassador said, in record time. I have personally already expressed my appreciation and thanks to President Macron and President Xi Jinping.
The event underscored Franco-Ghanaian cooperation in language development and the upcoming Paris Olympics on July 26. The French ambassador also noted their focus on supporting Ghana's creative industry.
Cultural and creative arts industry are at the heart of France. New partnership with Ghana. Team France is collaborating with Ghanaian musicians and the Creative Arts Agency to enhance business viability of the industry through improved remuneration and artist protection. We are now ready to give money to some of them, and we selected 30, and between the 30, 50, they will receive money that could go from 30,000 euro, why not more? So that is a good start. And I do think that to change the relationship with the African continent, we need to focus on real people on the ground.
Ghana's top musician Black Sherif was at the event, also commended the French government for its initiative to support artists in the country.
Everybody needs support, every single person needs support, every type of talent needs support. So I believe every talent in this motherland is open and waiting for support anyhow. So inshallah, more support for the youth.
The celebration featured breakdance, skateboarding, judo, boxing, gymnastics and rhythmic dance performances. From the French ambassador's residence here in Accra, Carlos Caloni for Joy News.
And we want to stay a while longer within the economy-related stories we have for you. Ghana remains a debt-distressed country, and these debts are unsustainable. That's according to the latest joint debt sustainability review by the IMF and the World Bank. We can now hear from George Yafe once more.
IMF and the World Bank are of the view that despite some progress made by Ghana when it comes to the domestic debt exchange program and the recent expansion of the economy, that was still not enough to improve on the country's debt situation. They, however, believe the situation can be said to be improving when Ghana is able to sign an agreement with the Eurobond holders on clearing their debts and the commercial bilateral creditors. The IMF and the World Bank are even worried about the situation going forward as commodity prices, exports and the exchange rate shocks could impact badly on the country's situation going forward. Meanwhile, the country was able to save some $2.6 billion due to the debt servicing freeze announced in December 2022. Now, this wasn't some fiscal money sitting in a vault somewhere, but rather payments that government would have made if it had not secured that debt servicing freeze from December 2022 to December 2023.
Let's now talk about the local currency, shall we? The Ghana cedi is expected to recoup some losses against the dollar in the coming months. That's according to Fitch Solutions. It's revealed in an article saying improved investor sentiment, higher dollar inflows, and easing external conditions are expected to help cedi's cause. More in this report.
It's mentioned in an article dubbed Sub-Saharan Africa Currency Roundup, Greater Stability Ahead in Second Half of 2024, that external conditions would offer more support to Sub-Saharan African currencies in the coming quarters. According to the London-based firm, the cedi would fare better in the second half of 2024. It is expected to recoup a 9% loss. This is due to improved investor sentiment, capital inflows, and also provide appreciatory pressure to the unit. Moreover, the start of a monetary easing cycle in the US in September will likely put some pressure on the dollar and improve investor appetite for higher yielding emerging market assets, providing tailwinds to the cedi. In the year to date, the cedi has lost about 20% of its value against the US dollar, positioning it among the worst performing currencies globally. Subdued market sentiment amid debt restructuring negotiations has kept capital inflows weak, while the start of an economic recovery has increased demand for foreign exchange.
Let's bring in the research lead for GCB Capital, Courage Boti, for some quick analysis on the back of this story. Thanks so much, Courage, for agreeing to speak to us here on Business Live. Sounds refreshing to know that the cedi in the coming months will recoup some losses against the dollar in the coming months. About 9%, I'm told. What do you make of that?
Well, good evening to you and your listeners. What we've seen since the litany of news about progress with negotiations with the OCC, with bondholders and all that has been a relative sense of stability. We've seen Ghana complete the IMF review, second review. We've seen 360 million flow in. That did not trigger a lot of correction, and rightly so, because all of these were fed really well into expectations. The positive news effect has been communicated way ahead, and the market is fully aware of that. So it was fully priced into the dynamics of demand and supply on the market, really. And I guess that is why we haven't seen very sharp corrections going forward. Going forward, will we see 9% correction or thereabout? I'm not too sure. Yes, I expect stability. Stability in the sense that the news and then the development around will kind of anchor sentiment broadly on the market. But the truth is that external debt is changed. Commercial, yes, there are some savings in there, but these are not cash flows coming to Ghana. They are really payments that are being deferred, or payments that we are supposed to put across that are being probably part of it forgiving and others being deferred into the future, really. So it doesn't give you immediate cash flow, right? So the sentiment on the market, the actual inflows and outflows will determine the dynamics of the cedi. So I see probably some correction, but probably not very significantly. And that will happen a lot when we complete the debt exchange eventually and sentiment are fully restored. There is the increasing sense that there will be debt sustainability going forward. You see, you talked about the Fitch report citing the US Fed pivoting, and then that would trigger some flows to emerging market. That is correct. But it would be correct for Ghana if we complete the Eurobond exchange and the official debt exchange, and sentiments are fairly balanced and people are convinced that Ghana is on that path to correction. As it stands now, we are on the way there, but we've not completed that. And it is when I believe that is complete that you begin to see some offshore interest gradually trickle back into the local economy. That is where the actual FS boost will come from. But at the moment, all the things we're talking about savings are not cash flows, and they won't impact the demand supply dynamics directly. What it will do is affect sentiment, and that is what is resulting in the stability. I expect more of that stability from now until the exchange is complete, and then gradually there will be return of offshore interest into our local economy. That is where we can see the lift.
I see. So what, again, in your view, must government do to achieve this? Remember, it's only a projection.
Well, yes, I think we are fairly on course. We just have to keep an eye on the ball, and stay the course through the election period. There's been a lot of commentary about government's change approach to this particular election year. We are being told we should look forward more to a 2004 than a 2012, 2016, thereabout. Those are good stories for the year, and we must begin to see the implementation of it, starting with the mid-year review. We want to see how the revenue shortfall in the first quarter of the year was compensated for. We want to see how the interventions we've seen so far, the policy interventions that are yielding the recovery, we want to see how they will be sustained going forward. We want to see how government will remain disciplined in an election year with all the demand for roads, all the demand for schools, hospitals, and all the other social infrastructure running around ahead of the elections. We want to see how government can stay disciplined. If we could cross that mark, and if the half-year review sounds convincing, and the targets are broadly on course, yes, that should also provide some lift, and then ultimately we'll begin to see the result in some more increased stability for the remainder of the year.
Encourage. Interestingly, this is coming at a time the IMF, of course, has raised concerns about our economy, not only about election spending, but revenue and expenditure. And definitely this is something government is aware of. Again, the question here is, will government be fiscally prudent?
Well, revenue growth is the anchor of this program. It's more hinged on the consolidation we are doing is more hinged on revenue growth than expenditure containment, because that is where the elephant is, right? I mean, the idea is if you can raise enough revenue, then you can fund your development aspirations. It's always been the case that we are not so committed to the revenue growth, but we want to meet as much of the needs of the populace as possible. That's where the imbalance is. And so that is a test case for us. And that is exactly what I alluded to, that we need to watch that space, how revenue, we saw about 7 billion in shortfall in the first quarter of the year. How was that compensated for in the second half of the year? And what is it looking like at half year? That picture will tell us a lot about how the remainder of the year would unfold, because typically the election pressure seems to be strongest in the second half of the year. So we need to see the first half and how things are compensated for. I understand expenditure will be front-loaded in the first half, and normally that is so because revenue tend to underperform in the first quarter, but then we need to keep paying wages. We need to keep doing all the other things we have to do, keep the programs and policies of the budget running, pending revenue picking up. And so we want to see how it's picked up. We want to see what the strategy going forward will be to enforce compliance, not new revenue lines, but enforce compliance. And then when you raise enough, then you can fund the development aspirations and there won't be problem. But if you are not raising enough, but yet you can't keep the budget also tight, the expenditure tight, that is where the problem will be. But the IMF is keenly focused on these things, and government is very minded. The next review is also, critical, because it will consider all these factors really. So it's really an important test case to see how the mid-year unfolds, and by extension, what the outlook for the second half year will be. These will all be key to whether the city remains stable, whether inflation will continue going down, and all the other things linked to it.
All right. Thank you so much, Courage Buti, for agreeing to speak to us on Business Live, and great perspective you've shared with us here on Business Live. We are indeed grateful. You're still watching Business Live. We are back with more. Please stay.
Pascal's showing his boss the efficient new technology they've installed. She is pleased, but now she's asking, why is that still there? Pascal explains that the wells can store many, many messages. The boss is not so pleased anymore. If you haven't upgraded your contact center yet, it's time to get business done better with MTN Business.
go be? Deposit and maintain a minimum balance of 500 Ghana cedis or multiples of it to qualify to win your share of 1.2 million Ghana cedis in cash and prizes. EMG. Join the EcoBank Million Gang. A better way to enjoy life. Deposit today. A better way. A better Africa. EcoBank. The Pan-African Bank.
Hello, welcome back to Business Life, and we've got to stay a while longer with issues that has to do with the IMF and, of course, Ghana's economy. Already we know that Ghana remains a debt-distressed country, and these debts are unsustainable. That's according to the latest joint sustainability review by the IMF and the World Bank. And my colleague George Yafe has joined me in studio for some breakdown on that. George, and why must we be concerned about these issues being raised by IMF?
Some will say that the whole IMF program that we are under, it's all about getting our debts to sustainable levels. I mean, we have the fund before getting to this program described our debts as unsustainable. So the broader focus of this program is that what can we do to bring these debts to levels that we can say they are sustainable, and that's why we're under this program. And everybody was expecting that as the fund revise or review its DSA, as this is going to be analysis on Ghana, based on what we've done on the domestic direction program, based on the fact that the economy has expanded over the period, and also the initial deal that we have closed actually with the bilateral creditors, that should have impacted on this sustainability analysis report that they put together. But it appears that all these things didn't impact on this report, because the fund is arguing that when it comes to the economy, they want to work with final numbers and provisional. If you look at the Ghana Fiscal Service data on the economy, those are provisional numbers on the economy. And they want to get final numbers before they actually do the assessment when it comes to Ghana's ability to pay its debt on time. And basically that's the crux of it. Also, you thought that we have also completed the domestic direction program. We've also done the bit about the bilateral creditors. But the fund is also arguing that a chunk of our debts are with the commercial bilateral creditors and the Eurobond holders. So if we've not been able to finalize agreements on these areas, that would not impact on this sustainability analysis that they put together. That's why you still think that despite some of these progress that we've made, we are still described as a debt-distressed country. It means that maybe we have to double up our programs that we are putting in place to deal with these debt situations that we are caught up as a country.
Well, if you pay attention or paid attention to the conversation I had with Courage Buti, he did mention that indeed government appears to be on course, and with time we will see some, sort of progress in making that achievable. What do you make of that weekly?
I think that for a lot of people, as he earlier also explained, that for these investors, you'd be worried about whether this verdict could worry us. Some might argue that the investors who matter, they've already priced all these things into their outlook for the country. They knew that this new sustainability analysis that would have come out wouldn't have captured some of the progress that Ghana has made. And therefore, the new one that will come out would actually impact on that. That also has a broader impact on the Ghana cedi as well, because the argument here is that are these investors who are supposed to bring in these hard capital or maybe the FX, are they convinced about what government is doing going forward to stabilize the economy? And what he explained earlier on, some have said that the currency hasn't stabilized to what we are expecting, because most of these investors are looking forward to us closing the deal with these Eurobond holders, as in the sign agreement. And also don't forget that we've done the bilateral creditors, we've done the domestic direction program, we have reached an agreement in principle with these Eurobond holders. There is also another component of the commercial bilateral creditors that we're here to finalize. And if we don't close that in terms of an agreement, we wouldn't see that corresponding impact on the Ghana cedi. And that is why we are still seeing some challenges. But if you look at, in terms of the rate of depreciation, it has slowed significantly. So if government is able to sign the agreement with them in the coming weeks, we could see the cedi respond accordingly by seeing some strong stability on the local currency.
Ultimately, indeed, that is expected to have an impact on the cedi. And I don't know about the 9%, expected projection we are likely to see in terms of, value.
I mean, these things are very critical because, again, they influence market sentiment. If Fitch is projecting that they don't see don't forget that most of these investors out there, it's about the outlook and not just the immediate situation. So going forward in the next 3 months, post-elections, is government putting in place those measures that would ensure that there wouldn't be a budget overrun? Because don't forget that they are also worried about the impact of their investment.
How sure about that?
So I'm saying that overspending doesn't take place in a year. You see the signs. So if it's about Agenda 111 and you realize that it has not been budgeted, if it's about government saying that they're going to pay what they call it, the banking sector cleanup, and all those things have not been captured in the budget approved, then it will start raising eyebrows. So they look at all these programs and do the extrapolations and think that, listen, it appears that some measures are in place that could control the situation. We have a fund program as well. The fund will warn us, the fund will raise our eyebrows about this. And therefore, based on all these things that we are seeing, we think that the situation wouldn't be that bad going forward in 6 months. And therefore, we are committed in bringing in our capital to help save the economy.
Great. Thank you.
So all these things are wrapped up, and maybe that could help in restoring that investor confidence in the economy.
Certainly, George. Grateful, George Yafe, joining me in studio with some analysis on the back of that. Thanks so much for watching Business Live. I am Pius Kojo Baka. For more stories, feel free, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Bye-bye.
Job is